we've come a long way. But when you look at these numbers, when you look at these statistics, it is very clear that this country is still struggling with racism. We still have racism showing up in almost every institution.
So Senator Tim Scott lost millions of black Americans by saying America's not a racist nation. That's interesting. Kamala Harris was on with Clinton Foundation donor Zero, Little George, the day after the non-State of the Union speech. She had this to say about America on the topic of race.
Well, first of all, no, I don't think America is a racist country, but we also do have to speak truth about the history of racism.
Yeah.
I caught that.
Did she lose tens of millions of black Americans because she said the same thing that Tim Scott said? Did Tim Scott ever say, has Tim Scott ever said once, has any serious person ever said once that racism doesn't exist or didn't exist, that we need to be honest about our history? Who argues against that? These are straw men that are erected by men and women without chests like Kamala Harris and Van Jones to make an unreasonable position that Senator Tim Scott so eloquently outlined, curing discrimination with discrimination, sound reasonable. That's what they're doing. So,
yeah, and he recounted his own experiences with discrimination, then declared America is not a racist country.
So make sure when you hear the sort of cant from Kamala Harris that you hear from Kamala Harris and Van Jones in your circles, you push back straight away. Straight away. The same people who are so high-minded that they refer to Tim Scott as Uncle Tim.
Yeah, and it took Twitter 11 hours to take that down. But it exposed the hateful bias on the left of any person of color who doesn't agree with them.
The same D.C. press corps, so enlightened, they're challenging Tim Scott's familial history because while grandfather couldn't read, great-grandfather had amassed some land, and as we discussed yesterday.
Well, his grandfather dropped out of school to pick cotton, and they seem to gloss over that.
And as we discussed yesterday, the idea that black Americans amassed some property during the Reconstruction era, during Jim Crow, says nothing about the lives they led. It's missing the forest for the trees, as Eric Erickson wrote. The lives they led under racist institutions, under racist laws. That's the conservatives' understanding of American history. So you want to go chapter and verse on American history with me, Van Jones, Vice President Harris, any of these other race hustlers out there? Marxists using race for their hustle, really. For more on this, the two speeches, and where the two parties go from here, pleased to be joined again by Andy Kroll, Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief for Rollingstone Magazine. Andy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So you think that you think the Democrats really want to stake their electoral claim going forward on this debate, in quotation marks, of whether America is or is not a racist nation, and distinguish the nuances between their claims of it's not a racist nation, but it's systemically racist at the same time, as Van Jones was trying to explain?
No, I don't think that the Democrats, certainly the party led by Joe Biden right now, wants to go into the 2022 midterm elections, or even, dare I say, the next presidential election, having that kind of debate, or at least putting that debate at the center of their message. I mean, I listened to both speeches on Wednesday night, and listening to the Biden non-State of the Union, State of the Union, I mean, I don't think he could get the word jobs in there often enough. Everything has had something to do with jobs and creating jobs, and that is so clearly what President Biden, wants the next year and a half to be about, and what he wants the 2020 midterms to be about. But that is not what the day after conversation was. Clearly, seeing what Vice President Harris said, seeing the back and forth over Senator Tim Scott's rebuttal as well. So you see a sort of competition here for the terms of the debate. Again, heading into a midterm election, that could be huge if Democrats either keep or lose control of the House or the Senate.
Well, let's talk about what he didn't talk about. I mean, he didn't mention at all the crisis at the border, immigration policy, or the national debt from any of these trillion-dollar stimulus packages he's passing.
They didn't talk about those issues. I mean, I think the border is not an issue that President Biden is going to bring up willingly in a speech like this. And he wants to tout his victories. He wants to lay out this vision, which he did of a sort of neo-New Deal, massive government spending program on everything from COVID relief to infrastructure to human infrastructure, child care, paid leave, all the things that he talked about, to the American Families Plan, and on and on. And the border is not a success story for this president right now, just as it wasn't for the previous president, the president before him, and the president before him, because it is such a unbelievably infuriatingly hard issue for any president in any party. And so you see Biden trying to set the terms of the debate. And really, I mean, this was a candidate who we forget, was quoted at a donor event saying, nothing major is going to change under some of his policies. And then what he laid out on Wednesday night was, really a taking a cue from Franklin Roosevelt in terms of using government to reshape all different parts of American life, and believing that those trillions of dollars that are going to be spent in the name will pay for themselves. Whether that's actually the case, of course, depend on whether these bills get passed and whether the economic logic behind them is sound or not. But that is clearly the Biden vision at this point, and it is a lot of government spending, a lot of government vision here, and I think we're going to see a huge battle this year in the House and in the Senate over how much of that actually comes to life.
Yeah, the old Trojan Biden routine, huh? The candidate, nothing major is going to change, and then now we have the guy who wants to be FDR redux. Yeah, that's not exactly a new move in politics. I wonder what you think about the possibility that the ground is shifting a little bit under Fortune 500 Chamber of Commerce America. I ask that because of some successive op-eds, one from Ted Cruz and the other from Kim Strassel in the Wall Street Journal. Ted Cruz saying that he's not going to take any money from corporate PACs. I think the implication would also be C-suite executives from those Fortune 500 companies. And, maybe Ted Cruz isn't going to get a lot of support from those entities anyway, but it's more, I hope, to provide leadership for others to follow suit, to suggest that the next time Boeing comes before them for, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions from the Export-Import Bank, maybe if we're in charge, we finally let the Export-Import Bank expire, for example, and so on and so forth. And Strassel writing about the 15 freshman Democrats that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce supported in their contest against Republicans. And maybe that formal separation between the Republican Party, at least the conservative base of the Republican Party, and corporate America, that is starting to be a real thing, not just a talking point.
It's definitely a realignment, or the makings of a realignment, that we haven't seen in a long time. I mean, I covered the Chamber of Commerce and a lot of these same issues during the Obama presidency, and you wouldn't find a more well-funded, organized, angry opponent to a lot of what the Obama administration was proposing than the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and its leader, Tom Donahue, at the time. I mean, that was really one of the great dramas of the Obama years, was the Democrats versus the chamber and, the different other sort of trade groups that kind of follow in the chamber's wake. But now that is changing in strange ways. You have the chamber supporting, as you said, some House Democrats. You have the chamber really pushing for a lot of obvious reasons and probably a lot of self-interested ones as well, an infrastructure bill, infrastructure package. And you have as well around some of this activism pushing corporations to speak out against the Georgia voting laws in other states. You have this rift opening up in the sort of Republican corporate alliance in a way that, wasn't the case in the last 10 years, really. It's early days in this, and I don't know if this is, the Josh Hawleys and the Marco Rubios of the world saying, okay, now is the moment where we're going to try to recast this party, the Republican Party, as populist or working class or what have you, or if this is a sort of temporary, glitch in the system kind of thing. But there is a scrambling of the usual alliances, in some cases alliances that are 30 or 40 years old between the parties and industries. And again, who actually gets behind infrastructure or who gets behind some of these other big bills, I think is going to shape how this fight plays out. And it is a very strange time here in Washington to see these very strange bedfellows together.
Well, it would seem to me that, if you're have the perspective of a more populist type of politician like Josh Hawley or even Ted Cruz to some extent, the play to the old guard is to say, you don't want Trump to come back? You want to marginalize Trump in this party? Then you better take up his attitude and his constituency. Because if you don't take up his attitude on behalf of his constituency, the constituency he brought over so much from the Democratic Party in 2016, then you're not going to be in charge, and you're not going to be in charge of your own party. That would be my message to McConnell if I was coming from that perspective.
Right. You see this with a bunch of leading Republican elected officials. Hawley, Rubio, Cruz are obvious ones. I think you see a little bit of this from Rick Scott out of Florida. I think you see it from Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida. Moves being made to try to claim that Trump mantle, or at least the Trump populist mantle, the kinds of things he campaigned on in 2016. Where this sets up a really interesting conflict, tension at least, is with the man you just mentioned, Mitch McConnell. And this is an elected official who has, made his bones on really courting and tapping into the sort of, finances, funds of Fortune 500 companies of corporate America. I mean, Mitch McConnell is famous for getting into a dining room here in D.C. with a bunch of corporate lobbyists and just sitting there in silence until they started offering to write checks to him. I mean, that's his MO. That's what he's so good at. So what do you do when the party decides that, it doesn't want, or members of the party don't want to be friends with the chamber and do want to stick their finger in the eye of Delta or Coca-Cola or any of these, sort of big blue chip companies? It's an interesting clash without a doubt. And, I think it's one of the more interesting things in the Republican Party going on right now. But I don't know who wins that. It's never good to bet against Mitch McConnell, but there may be larger forces at work here, especially if people are trying to get out in front of a Trump 2024 presidential campaign and try to claim that following, try to claim that mantle for themselves.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell was on Fox News yesterday, and Martha McCallum asked him, "Are you going to support Trump if he runs?" And he said, "I'll just support whoever the nominee is." But he said that there's three to four other senators that are vying for the position right now.
That's a classic Mitch McConnell answer. I mean, that is also probably the smart answer. Why would he put why would he get out in front of this? But I think there's a lot in the policy front with infrastructure, with all of these things that Biden is proposing with voting rights, and then all of this is through a lens of where does the Republican Party go from here? I mean, an election which the former President Trump narrowly lost and made some notable gains among traditionally Democratic voters, but also, is he going to run again? And if he doesn't, can anyone replicate what he did? And these are all these big questions hanging over the party right now, and we're starting to see it play out in these different things we're talking about, different senators we're watching.
Andy Kroll, Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief for Rollingstone magazine. Andy, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Are you aware that AmericanEagle.com has been designing websites since the internet started? Do you know they've helped companies large and small achieve results that they themselves thought impossible? Today, a well-designed website is an art form. There are no cookie-cutter solutions. At AmericanEagle.com, they are proud to design and develop a website that fits their client's business. Their experience shows that a well-designed website with the client's business at the forefront will bring an excellent return on their investment. Clients, from startups to medium and large businesses, have come to rely on them for a full line of website services from consulting and integration to digital strategy and marketing, hosting, and maintenance. AmericanEagle.com is the technology partner you need if you're looking for online success. They work with all kinds of companies in nearly every industry. Give the team at AmericanEagle.com a call today, 1-877-WEB-NOW-1. Let them help you achieve online results and success. AmericanEagle.com, that number again, 1-877-WEB-NOW and the number 1, 1-877-WEB-NOW-1.
Looking to make improvements in your health? Look no further. Treat yourself to the best nutrition with Balance of Nature. It's 6 capsules. With that, you're getting 10 servings of 31 different fruits and veggies. And you hear stories right here on this radio station about how people's lives have changed by taking Balance of Nature. Well, guess what? The next story could be yours. So do something for yourself. Be proactive and order your bottles of fruits and veggies today. 800-246-8751. The number's 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago. Free shipping and 35% off your first preferred order of fruits and veggies. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Discount code Chicago.
Nobody wants to need an attorney, but when you do, you need to find the right firm. The one that shares your values and will take your case personally. That's Kuda Law. You get the entire Kuda Law team working on your case. Even the cell phone number of your lead attorney. Kuda Law wins. Go to CUDALaw.com. Kuda Law has the experience to get you a victory with any kind of personal injury, workers' compensation, medical malpractice, or COVID-related injuries or work injuries. Kuda Law wins. And you're not a number. You're not a case. You're a person that needs help. The Kuda Law team takes it personally and will put in the time and effort to get you the best outcome. Go to CUDALaw.com. CUDALaw.com. Kuda Law wins. Talk about your case and get real honest advice from the only law firm that wants to win as bad as you do. Kuda Law. You can chat with them too right now at CUDALaw.com. CUDALaw.com. Kuda Law wins.
Right, weather's getting nice. So how about playing some golf with us? Because it's that time of the year for our annual AM 560 golf outing. This year, we're partnering up with our good friends over at the 100 Club of Illinois. They help provide resources, financial support, access to training, and moral support to both the families of first responders killed in the line of duty and active duty first responders throughout the state of Illinois. Folks, it's your chance to back the blue. And here's the best part. When you purchase a foursome at our golf outing, which, by the way,